Hello there. My name is Crispin Cioe. I'm an old friend of James Montgomery's. We go way back. In fact, we met when we were 12 years old. We're both from Detroit, Michigan. We were both born in Detroit at Harper Hospital. But we met when we were 12, when my family moved back to Detroit. And we became friends. When we were young, that age, we used to we go to hockey games, Detroit Red Wings, and sometimes we'd take the bus downtown into Detroit to go to the Emperor, one of the last burlesque houses in the country, the Empire Burlesque, which was on Grand Circus Park, the last of the strip joints in Detroit, and mostly for educational purposes. Two 13-year-old boys. We'd go see the Motown Revue, the Fox Theater. But when I was 16, we were in high school. I was a year older than James. Me and some friends formed a jug band. And after a couple of months of rehearsing, I said to them, the other guys, I have a friend named James, and I think he'd be great in the band. He's learning how to play harmonica. So I asked him to come I asked the other guys to listen to James at our first rehearsal, which you see here. There's Ed, Don, Dick, Crispin, and right here the first known sighting of James Montgomery at 15 years old playing the harmonica. Just took one rehearsal, and then James was in the band, and we actually worked. We played around coffee houses and movie theaters. When they'd let them out, they'd let us set up in the lobby. We did some morning TV shows in Detroit. And around that same time, James would go down, I found out, to blues clubs that still existed in Detroit, like Ethel's, to go down when he was 16, maybe I was 17, he started going down to hear people like Muddy Waters, and he made friends with some of the blues greats at that young age. I think I went with him once or twice. He started getting super serious. And we stayed friends. In the summer of 1967, we hitchhiked halfway to the Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, for the Summer of Love, and picked up a little car, an English Ford, along the way, drove over the Rockies, and then we got to the Haight-Ashbury, and we pretty much went to the Fillmore every night for a month, went to Mount Tamalpais, got there, and Grateful Dead pulled up in their truck and handed out acid. Of course, we took it and watched a 3-hour set by the Grateful Dead in 1967 on Mount Tam. Then we both went to college. Everybody knows James went to BU. I went to University of Michigan. But we stayed in touch because we were really tight friends. That trip out west, bonded us forever. We had some real adventures. I'm sure we've told you about them before, but ask James about that. Or next time you see me. And then after about 4 years of regular college, thinking I was an English major, film major, going to be a writer, I realized I wanted to be a musician the rest of my life. And James and I had been in touch. He tried to talk me out of it, but I was serious. And a couple years later, I was out in Boston going to Berklee School of Music for about a year, living at James's house, the band house for the James Montgomery Band. Sometimes I'd take Wino out for a walk, for those of you who remember. And over the years, I went back to Michigan, joined a band. We moved out to Boston. James and I always stayed in touch. We played together a lot. And in 1980, me and 3 other horn players, I lived in New York at that time. We were in New York City. We formed a horn section called the Uptown Horns. We're still we're still those 4 guys hanging out. We toured a lot, but I stayed in touch with James, and he welcomed us to play with his band over the years. Myself and the Uptown Horns played on several albums with James. Live Tracks, which was recorded at Tracks nightclub in New York. The Oven Is On. I played on that one. From Detroit to the Delta, and the newest one, James Montgomery Blues Band. What can you say? It's a lifetime in music for both of us, but I've never had this experience with anybody else where we stayed friends and literally have never gone more than a month without probably playing somewhere together, either him down in my area. I live just outside New York in Connecticut. And I would say it's a lifetime in music, and it's been a great one knowing James to this very day. We constantly are in touch about music. Sometimes we write some stuff together, write tunes. And, he's I think he's one of the great bluesmen of today, of all time. He was very close to people like Muddy Waters, the originators of the Chicago blues, John Lee Hooker, James Cotton, of course, Otis Rush, and he's one of the great bluesmen we have. I'm proud to call him my friend, and he's better than ever. We just played together a few days ago, and I can honestly say James Montgomery is one of the great bluesmen, and he's better than ever. Happy birthday, James.